The key is finding the agent who really has a process to maximize your equity.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
But when an agent goes in and talks to a seller, says, hey, your house is worth this, big mistake. I mean, honestly, from a seller's perspective, they got to be wondering about that.
Well, the real key is understanding that the goal for a seller, and they may have other goals, but one of the key goals is to maximize their equity. And to do that effectively, you need a process.
Yeah.
It's not, any agent who comes in and picks a price, okay, even if their intentions are good, they're guessing.
Yeah.
They're guessing. The key is finding the agent who really has a process to maximize your equity. And that's what gets missed. Listen, there's agents who will go in there and go, you know what, I'm going to come in super high because I want to get the seller all excited about my value, so they'll pick me, and I'll worry about lowering the price with them later. And it's such a wrong thing to do.
What a disservice, yeah.
It is a disservice. And so the key is you should understand and ask them, what's your process? What do you do? And they should have, truthfully, a process for everything. I don't care if it's an open house. What's your process? And when they answer that question, you'll know, okay, God, I'm so glad you asked. Here's what I do to make sure my open house does the best job it can for you, and takes those buyers to where you want them to go, and that's interest in the home.
Yeah, I've seen it. And I go on listing appointments sometimes, and I'm competing with other brokers sometimes, and I know, and I even warn my sellers. I say, listen, guys, if somebody comes in and tells you a number that you want to hear, they're doing what I call buying the listing. They're buying it from you. They're basically saying,
absolutely.
I want you to sign this contract for a year or 6 months or whatever it is, and you're married to me now. And the price we start off doesn't matter because I'm going to have to get you lower later and we'll settle later.
Correct.
What a disservice. I mean, but it happens a lot.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
And so when we talk about having a process for everything, like an open house, and that's a great example, Mark, because, I know that there's teachings on open houses where people say, well, let's go in and make sure we show the buyers, everything else in the neighborhood, let's show them everything, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I want to sell that house first. That's my objective for an open house.
Yep.
For every seller, because the first thing they walk in, I want to, and I got to learn how to demonstrate the house. I got to know how to market that open house ahead of time. When I'm doing the open house, I have to be prepared to answer questions about the property and then talk to them about what's happening around it as well. But I need to be able to be prepared to be able to help show that property in the best possible light.
Yeah, so I'm not a realtor, and you gave me a little bit of this, Harvey, but I'm not a realtor. So what should a process sound like? Like when you say they should be telling me they have a process for doing this, can you give me kind of an idea or example of that?
Well, I think one example, and let's stay on the open house aspect of it, is when I begin letting people see the property, be it agents or not. How about this? What does the property need to look like specifically prior to doing that open house? There's simple little things that if a seller skips and a buyer sees, it's not a big deal. It may be a $50 repair, but guess what? When a buyer sees it, they take off $10,000 because look there's so many issues here.
It's true.
If they didn't fix that $50 item, what else did they not fix? And so,
exactly.
You guys were talking about fear earlier on loans. Well, that's what it does. It creates these unnecessary fears in a purchaser that was easily fixed if you had a process. You walked through the house, you knew exactly what the house needed, you communicated to the seller, and it got done before anyone gets into that property.
Yeah.
And so having that process step by step is, what's the process for communicating to agents and consumers that come into the house? What questions are you going to ask? What's your process to get the information you need? What information do you need?
Right.
So it's all these different things, and a great agent gets this.
Okay.
And when you skip those processes, all you do is skip the opportunity for me to maximize the benefits of that open house for me, the seller.
Yep.
And or for the buyer, depending on which side you're on.